Welcome to Jersey Reads the Classics, an audiobook podcast delving into the finest works of our literary masters. Unfortunately, it's read by this woman.
What the hell? Who cares? Let's go on an adventure.
Hello and welcome back to Jersey Reads the Classics. Thank you so much for returning. I'm your host with the most, Rosie DeCandia, and I'm wearing my finest loungewear. You know what I'm saying? I'm thinking I should get a smoking jacket. I don't smoke, but a nice smoking jacket and a fake pipe or something, or maybe a monocle. I've always wanted a monocle, but I digress. Anyway, we don't do recaps of the previous chapters. You can just watch the video beforehand. If you want the recap and all that other kind of nonsense, listen to the podcast. This is the vlogcast, or whatever you call this. So let's proceed to Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. Chapter 4. The rabbit sends in a little bill. It was the white rabbit, trotting slowly back again and looking anxiously about as it went, as if it had lost something, and she heard it muttering to itself, the Duchess, oh my dear paws, oh my fur and whiskers, she'll get me executed as sure as ferrets are ferrets. Where can I have dropped them, I wonder? Alice guessed in a moment that it was looking for the fan and the pair of white kid gloves, and she very good-naturedly began hunting about for them, but they were nowhere to be seen. Everything seemed to have changed since her swim in the pool, and the great hall with the glass table and the little door had vanished completely. Hello! What the hell? It's like, I remember my 20s, going out and partying. Oy, things happen, and the next day you're like, what the hell happened? And you're just like, I don't know. That completely is a memory that's never coming back. And there are some memories you don't want to come back. You know what I'm talking about. Let them stay buried, okay? Very soon, the rabbit noticed Alice as she went hunting about and called out to her in an angry tone. Why, Mary Ann, what are you doing out here? Run home this moment and fetch me a pair of gloves and a fan. Quick now. And Alice was so much frightened that she ran off at once in the direction it pointed to without trying to explain the mistake it had made. Because we know it's Alice, not Mary Ann. Anyway, who the frig is Mary Ann? Does he have his own maid? What's up with that? He took me for his housemaid, she said to herself as she ran. How surprised he'll be when he finds out who I am. But I'd better take him his fan and gloves. That is, if I can find them. As she said this, she came upon a neat little house, on the door of which was a bright brass plate with the name W. Rabbit. Oh, is the W for white? Or is his name Walter? I don't know. I mean, that's a good question. Engraved upon it. She went in without knocking and hurried upstairs in great fear lest she should meet the real Mary Ann and be turned out of the house before she had found the fan and gloves. How queer it seems, Alice said to herself, to be going messages for a rabbit. I suppose Dinah be sending me on messages next. Again with Dinah and that freaking cat. She don't learn her lesson. She's always bringing up Dinah. Whatever. And she began fancying the sort of thing that would happen. Miss Alice, come here directly and get ready for your walk. Coming in a minute, nurse. But I've got to watch this mouse hole till Dinah comes back and see that the mouse doesn't get out. Only, I don't think, Alice went on, that they'd let Dinah stop in the house if it began ordering people about like that. You think? By this time, she had found her way into a tidy little room with a table in the window. And on it, as she had hoped, a fan and 2 or 3 pairs of tiny white kid gloves. She took up the fan and a pair of the gloves and was just going to leave the room when her eye fell upon a little bottle that stood near the looking glass. There was no label this time with the words, drink me. But nevertheless, she uncorked it and put it to her lips. I know something interesting is sure to happen, she said to herself, whenever I eat or drink anything, so I'll just see what this bottle does. Oh no, I do hope it'll make me grow large again, for really, I'm quite tired of being such a tiny little thing. Okay, Alice. Alice is just getting real brazen. I mean, all right, there is no poison thing on it, but it doesn't even say drink me, and the bitch is being really adventurous and courageous and drinking this thing, not even knowing what's going to happen. But once again, this is Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, so she knows something curiouser and more curiouser is going to happen. Let's proceed. Hello. It did so indeed, and much sooner than she had expected. Before she had drunk half the bottle, she found her head pressing against the ceiling and had to stoop to save her neck from being broken. She hastily put down the bottle, saying to herself, "That's quite enough. I hope I shan't grow any more. As it is, I can't get out at the door. I do wish I hadn't drunk quite so much." We all know those nights, right? Ooh, girl. Oh, look at this wonderful picture of Alice. Look at her popping out of the house. Okay, Alice. Alas, it was too late to wish that. She went on growing and growing, and very soon had to kneel down on the floor. In another minute, there was not even room for this, and she tried the effect of lying down with one elbow against the door and the other arm curled around her head. Still, she went on growing, and as a last resource, she put one arm out of the window and one foot up the chimney and said to herself, "Now I can do no more. Whatever happens, what will become of me?" I know the feeling. Luckily for Alice, the little magic bottle had now had its full effect, and she grew no larger. Still, it was very uncomfortable. And as there seemed to be no short of chance of her ever getting out of the room again, no wonder she felt unhappy. It was much pleasanter at home, thought poor Alice, when one wasn't always growing larger and smaller and being ordered about by mice and rabbits. I almost wish I hadn't gone down that rabbit hole. And yet, it's rather curious, this sort of life. I do wonder what can have happened to me. When I used to read fairy tales, I fancied that kind of thing never happened. And now here I am in the middle of one. There ought to be a book written about me, wink, wink, and there ought. And when I grow up, I'll write one. Oh, look at you. But I'm grown up now, she added in a sorrowful tone. At least there's no room to grow up any more here. But then, thought Alice, shall I never get any older than I am now? That'll be a comfort, one way, never to be an old woman. But then always to have to learn lessons? Ugh, I shouldn't like that. "Oh, you foolish Alice," she answered herself. "How can you learn lessons in here, where there's hardly room for you and no room at all for any lesson books?" What is going on with Alice? She just keeps asking these questions. I gotta tell you, she's going on this adventure, and it really truly is an existential crisis. We discussed this a couple of chapters ago. She's really got to figure out, who is she? What's going on? And these are questions that I just normally don't think adults think about. But Alice, you a smart bitch. That's all I'm gonna say. She's a smart girl, okay? As she went on, taking first one side and then the other, and making quite a conversation of it all together. But after a few minutes, she heard a voice outside and stopped to listen. "Mary Ann," said the voice. "Fetch you my gloves this moment." Then came a little pattering of feet on the stairs. Alice knew it was the rabbit coming to look for her, and she trembled till she shook the house, quite forgetting that she was now about 1,000 times as large as the rabbit and had no reason to be afraid of it. Presently, the rabbit came up to the door and tried to open it. But as the door opened inwards and Alice's elbow was pressed hard against it, that attempt proved a failure. Alice heard it say to itself, "Then I'll go round and get in the window." "That you won't," thought Alice, and after waiting till she fancied that she heard the rabbit just under the window, she suddenly spread out her hand and made a snatch in the air. She did not get hold of anything, but she heard a little shriek and a fall and a crash of broken glass, from which she concluded that it was just possible it had fallen into a cucumber frame or something of the sort. Next came an angry voice, the rabbit's. "Pat, Pat, where are you?" And then a voice she had never heard before. "Sure then I'm here, digging for apples, Your Honor." "Digging for apples indeed," said the rabbit angrily. "Here, come and help me out of this." Sounds of more broken glass. "Now tell me, Pat, what's that in the window?" "Sure, it's an arm, Your Honor." He pronounced it arm. "An arm, you goose. Whoever saw one that size? Why, it fills the window. Sure it does, Your Honor, but it's an Urim for all that. Well, it's got no business there at any rate. Go and take it away. There was a long silence after this, and Alice could only hear whispers now and then, such as, "Sure, I don't like it yet, Your Honor, at all. Do as I tell you, you coward." And at last she spread out her hand again and made another snatch in the air. This time there were 2 little shrieks and more sounds of broken glass. What a number of cucumber frames there must be, thought Alice. I wonder what they'll do next. As for pulling me out of the window, I only wish they could. I'm sure I don't want to stay in here any longer. She waited for some time without hearing anything more. At last came a rumbling of little cart wheels and the sound of a good many voices all talking together. She made out the words, "Where's the other ladder? Why, I hadn't to bring one but one. Bill's got the other. Bill, fetch it here, lad. Here, put 'em up at this corner. Now, tie 'em together first. They don't reach half high enough yet. Oh, they'll do well enough. Don't be particular. Here, Bill, catch hold of this rope. Will the roof bear? Mind that loose slate. Oh, it's coming down. Heads below." A loud crash. Now, who did that? It was Bill, I fancy. Who's to go down the chimney? Nay, I shan't. You do it. That I won't, then. Bill's to go down. Here, Bill, the master says, you're to go down the chimney. Oh, so Bill's got to come down the chimney, has he? Said Alice to herself. Why, they seem to put everything upon Bill. I wouldn't be in Bill's place for a good deal. This fireplace is narrow, to be sure, but I think I can kick a little. She drew her foot as far down the chimney as she could and waited till she heard a little animal. She couldn't guess of what sort it was, scratching and scrambling about in the chimney, close above her. Then saying to herself, "This is Bill," she gave one sharp kick and waited to see what would happen next. The first thing she heard was a general chorus of, "There goes Bill!" Then the rabbit's voice alone, "Catch him, you by the hedge!" Then silence. And then another confusion of voices. "Hold up his head, Brandy, now. Don't choke him. How was it, old fella? What happened to you? Tell us all about it." Screw that. Bill is a trooper. If I was Bill, I'd be like, I ain't going in. And I hope you pay me for this shit. There was no mention of any, compensation for this. What's wrong with you, Bill? Bill, I think you need an agent or an attorney. Anyway. Last came a little feeble squeaking voice. That's Bill, thought Alice. Well, I hardly know. No more, thank ye. I'm better now. But I'm a deal too flustered to tell you. All I know is something comes at me like a jack-in-the-box, and up I goes like a skyrocket. So you did, old fella, said the others. Oh, just so you know, this is Bill. Yes, he is a lizard. We must burn the house down, burning down the house, said the rabbit's voice, and Alice called out as loud as she could, "If you do, I'll set Dinah at you." There we go with Dinah. There was a dead silence instantly, and Alice thought to herself, I wonder what they will do next. If they had any sense, they'd take the roof off. After a minute or two, they began moving about again, and Alice heard the rabbit say, "A barrowful will do to begin with." A barrel full of what, thought Alice, but she had not long to doubt, for the next moment a shower of little pebbles came rattling in at the window, and some of them hit her in the face. "I'll put a stop to this," she said to herself and shouted out, "You better not do that again," which produced another dead silence. Alice noticed with some surprise that the pebbles were all turning into little cakes as they lay on the floor. Oh my God, imagine that. Like pebbles turning into cakes. I could actually go for a cake right now. I love red velvet, I'm not going to lie. It's my favorite cake. Yeah, I'm not going to lie. Let's go back. Alice noticed with some surprise that the pebbles were all turning into little cakes as they lay on the floor, and a bright idea came into her head. If I eat one of these cakes, she thought, it's sure to make some change in my size. And as it can't possibly make me larger, it must make me smaller, I suppose. So, she swallowed one of the cakes and was delighted to find that she began shrinking directly. As soon as she was small enough to get through the door, she ran out of the house and found quite a crowd of little animals and birds waiting outside. The poor little lizard Bill was in the middle, being held up by 2 guinea pigs who were giving it something out of a bottle. They all made a rush at Alice the moment she appeared, but she ran off as hard as she could and soon found herself safe in a thick wood. Ooh. Dun, dun, dun. Ooh, the first thing I've got to do, said Alice to herself as she wandered about in the woods, is to grow to my right size again. And the second thing is to find my way into that lovely garden. I think that will be the best plan. It sounded an excellent plan, no doubt, and very neatly and simply arranged. The only difficulty was that she had not the smallest idea how to set about it. And while she was peering about anxiously among the trees, a little sharp bark just over her head made her look up in a great hurry. An enormous puppy was looking down at her with large round eyes and feebly stretching out one paw trying to touch her. Poor little thing, said Alice in a coaxing tone, and she tried hard to whistle to it. But she was terribly frightened all the time at the thought that it might be hungry, in which case it would be very likely to eat her up in spite of all her coaxing. You know, that's pretty astute. She's right. I mean, she is right. She's tiny right now. I'm going to show you a picture just so you grasp the concept. There's a dog. There's Alice. He actually could eat her, but he's too cute. This dog is too cute. I don't think he would do that. No, not to Alice. Then we wouldn't have Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. Then we'd have like dead Alice's adventures in a dog's stomach. Okay. Hardly knowing what she did, she picked up a little bit of stick and held it out to the puppy. Whereupon the puppy jumped into the air off all its feet at once with a yelp of delight and rushed at the stick and made believe to worry it. Then Alice dodged behind a great thistle to keep herself from being run over. And the moment she appeared on the other side, the puppy made another rush at the stick and tumbled head over heels in its hurry to get hold of it. Then Alice, thinking it was very like have a game of play with a cart horse, and expecting every moment to be trampled under its feet, ran round the thistle again. Then the puppy began a series of short charges at the stick, running a very little way forwards each time and a long way back, and barking hoarsely all the while, till at last it sat down a good way off, panting, with its tongue hanging out of its mouth, and its great eyes half shut. This seemed to Alice a good opportunity for making her escape. So she set off at once and ran till she was quite tired and out of breath, until the puppy's bark sounded quite faint in the distance. And yet what a dear little puppy it was, said Alice as she leaned against a buttercup to rest herself and fanned herself with one of the leaves. I should have liked teaching it tricks very much if I'd only been the right size to do it. Oh dear, I'd nearly forgotten that I've got to grow up again. Yeah, do we really have to grow up? All right, whatever. I think she obviously means in the literal physical sense. Let me see. How is it to be managed? I suppose I ought to eat or drink something or other. But the great question is, what? The great question certainly was, what? Alice looked all around her at the flowers and the blades of grass, but she could not see anything that looked like the right thing to eat or drink under the circumstances. There was a large mushroom growing near her, about the same height as herself. And when she had looked under it, and on both sides of it, and behind it, it occurred to her that she might as well look and see what was on the top of it. She stretched herself up on tiptoe and peeped over the edge of the mushroom, and her eyes immediately met those of a large blue caterpillar that was sitting on the top with its arms folded, quietly smoking a long hookah and taking not the smallest notice of her or of anything else. Okay, really quickly. The caterpillar is smoking a hookah. I think I've mentioned this before. Isn't it like a fact that Lewis Carroll was smoking opium and he wrote this novel when he was smoking opium? I don't think that's a fact, but I like to think that perhaps he was smoking some dope and he was definitely high, because let's be honest, we're seeing mushrooms. Everybody's talking. things are going awry. Alice is definitely holding her own, but is this a mushroom trip? Of course it is. The White Rabbit, Anyway, point is this. Alice is a resourceful kid, and she seems to know what she needs to do in times of trouble. So good on you, Alice. Once again, Alice, would I be that smart? I don't know. Moving onwards and upwards. Okay, so Alice, it seems like no matter what jam she gets in, she gets out, okay? There's been no jam in this thing, but there's been little cakes, pebbles that have turned into little cakes. And once again, smart enough to know to eat the cakes, but not so smart when she drank the bottle. Now, at this point, let's think about life. We are given decisions and choices every day. And is there really a right or wrong? I don't know sometimes. Kind of feel like, you know what? Things present themselves, and it's you got to discern which is the best path for you. Or like, should I drink the bottle or not drink the bottle? Should I eat the cake or not eat the cake? I don't know. It's kind of choices and decisions you have to do on a daily basis. But I also think you got to pay attention to your gut instinct. And Alice is a kid, and kids really don't think about these things. They just go with wherever they're going, and they're in the present moment. And that's something we can take away on the woo-woo frontier. The present moment, my friends. I mean, I don't know if you're journeying along with this or not, that's fine. But think about times when you've stayed in the present moment and things that have come to you and happened that have just been wonderful because you were not thinking about the past, which causes worry and all that other depression and stuff. And you're not thinking about the future, which causes anxiety. You're just staying in the present, kind of like Alice. I mean, this is a book that I really think you can take every instance and relate it to your own life, knowing that you're always going to have instances that are going to kind of go a little awry. Like she goes in the house to help him. You know that saying, no good deed goes unpunished. And then she sees the bottle. She's tempted by the fruit of another. Oh God, it's my singing Tourette's. But she's tempted, takes the bottle, and all of a sudden she grows really large. Aha! If she had stayed with the plan at hand, would we, she wouldn't have had that particular instance and destroyed the poor rabbit's house. But that's not the point. The point is she was supposed to get the fan and the gloves and all that good stuff, but got deterred and got distracted. How many times a day do we get distracted? I know I get distracted so many times. But the point is that distraction a smart distraction? Or is it just a waste of time? I don't know. These are questions that I ask you, and I encourage you to think about your distractions, what you're working towards, and if you're staying in the present. And I think at this moment, that's how I'm going to leave it. About staying in the present, my friends. Why not? Because let me tell you right now, you are not guaranteed tomorrow. So just enjoy the here and now, and knowing that right now, right here, you are blessed. All right. Have a great day. Thanks for joining us. And until next time, a toodly-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. Two ladies. Two ladies, two ladies. Do you know what that's from? It's another musical theater reference. It's a song from Cabaret, one of my favorite musicals, and I've always wanted to play Sally Bowles, but that's a topic for another time, and it has nothing to do with Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. Till next time. Peace. I know. Right. Journal. Be you. Be you. Who else are you going to be? Well, you're not going to be Alice. Maybe you could be. Alice doesn't even know who the fuck she is. She's having like so many questions going on. And I think that's what this book is doing. Really asking questions of a child. But is it asking questions of a child? It's you, my friends. Take those questions. Apply them to yourself. See where it goes. All right. See where you go. Down the rabbit hole? Maybe. Okay. I'm sleepy. I'm a little distracted myself now. I gotta go. Sorry. Bye.